What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and thank you for watching another video. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We do car content on this channel. Today, what we're going to be talking about is the 5 best performance modifications that you can do to your GTI A3, S3, or Golf R. Now, keep in mind this video is going to be my personal opinion on what the 5 best performance modifications for these cars are going to be. So you may have a different take on it, and I'd love to hear it. If you guys have any other modifications that you guys can think of that would be better than the ones that I'm going to list in this video, please let me know down in the comment section below. As you guys know, I have a 2017 Audi S3. The last video that I posted on my channel was going over all the modifications that I currently have on the car and how much everything cost. The modifications that I'm going to be talking about in today's video are not going to be in any particular order, except for the first one that I'm going to be listing in today's video. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is going to be my #1 overall that I would recommend anybody do, and then anything else that I talk about after that is going to be basically a toss-up on what you decide you want to do first. The first modification that I recommend that all of you do, whether you have a GTI, an A3, a Golf R, or an S3, is going to be an ECU tune, and if you have a DSG car, a TCU tune. As you guys already know, or if you are new to the channel, I am tuned by a company called Equilibrium Tuning, also known as EQT Tuning, and I cannot talk any better about them than I already do, and I cannot recommend them enough with how amazing their tune is, from the performance and the power that the car puts out to the customer service that they give on a daily basis. So by no means is the MQB platform from the factory a slouch of a car. They're actually pretty quick even for stock. If you have a GTI or an A3, they put out somewhere between like 210 to 220 horsepower and about 258 foot-pounds of torque. Now if you have an MK7 Golf R or an Audi S3, those put out about 292 horsepower and 280 foot-pounds of torque. The reason I recommend tuning first is because these cars, unfortunately, are pretty detuned from the factory. So obviously, as a car enthusiast like myself, and you, if you are watching this video, you want obviously a little more power out of your car. Now, depending on whatever company you go with, anything that you do is going to make the car a lot more enjoyable than stock. So there are really big name companies out there like APR, Unitronic, Revo, United Motorsports, EQT, Sneaky, the list goes on, that they provide tunes for these platform cars that obviously will make your factory car that is still fun, but a little less desirable than if you were to tune it and now the car becomes super fun and actually really quick. For example, my stock Audi S3 before I tuned it would make somewhere between like 14 and 16 pounds of boost from the factory. After I did the stage 1-2 with EQT, before I did all the bolt-ons, the car would peak at like 27, 28 pounds of boost, which if you're upping it that much, the car goes from a 290 horsepower car to a 400 plus horsepower car. And just like that, by clicking a button, you can get that much more power back into your car. If you're a simple person and you want to leave the car feeling 100% stock, I recommend you go with some kind of stage 1 tune, which usually no matter what company you go with, you won't have to do any other modifications. You just flash the car and you go. That means you retain the stock exhaust, you retain the stock intake, the stock plugs, etc. So if you do want to do just the stage 1, the car still wakes up a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. When I was stock, from when I went to stage 1 with no other mods, the car was really fast right off the rip. And obviously, as time goes on, you're going to want more power if you're a car enthusiast like myself. And again, like you watching, you're going to want to do more bolt-ons and then eventually go to a stage 2 and even a stage 3 with a hybrid turbo setup. Now, you may be thinking, hey, tuning the car is going to become more unreliable and all that stuff. Well, that is why I personally recommend EQT Tuning. They have a really good reputation of keeping tunes super reliable while giving you the most power possible. So their platform has been growing a lot since I joined, only back in November or December, I believe, when I tuned my car. So it's been about 7 to 8 months now. And honestly, the way they're growing is amazing. I'm glad that they're doing super well. Like I said, I recommend, if you had to ask me, go with EQT. From the power that the car makes to the customer service that they provide, to me, they are the best in the market at the moment. Now, with the ECU tune, if you have a DSG transmission car, I also recommend you get a TCU tune. Now, arguably, I feel the TCU tune may be even better than the ECU tune. And the reason why is because when you do the DSG tune, Especially when you launch the car, you can feel the car grip up and just, you can feel the power going through the drivetrain with the TCU tune. Also, the shift points are 100 times better when you get one, as well as the shifts are a lot crisper and a lot faster. So the DSG transmission off the rip is already amazing. Paired with a tune from whatever company you want to go with, is going to increase that and make the car even more enjoyable to drive. So I recommend the first mod that you guys go with will be an ECU and a TCU tune. Next, we're going to be talking about the exhaust of your car. I recommend one of the next mods you're going to want to do is a downpipe. Now, in the previous segment of the video, I kind of talked about if you just want to get a tune done and you want to keep your car pretty much stock, you could get a stage 1 tune, flash it, and you're good to go. Now, once you start getting into a downpipe, an exhaust, intercooler, intake, which we're going to be talking about further on in the video, that's when you're going to want to move to a stage 2 or higher tune. The reason I recommend a downpipe for either your Volkswagen or Audi MK7 or 8V is just because it will open up tuning capabilities for you much more than if you were to retain the stock factory downpipe. So basically, whenever you go stage 2 or higher on any company that you're going to be tuning your car with, they are going to say you need an aftermarket downpipe. Whether that is a catted downpipe or a catless downpipe, obviously use that for off-road use only. Well, they're going to tell you that you need a downpipe. So that is one of the best mods that you can do, as well as making more power in your car, and is going to be making your car feel a little peppier with the throttle, because you're not going to have that big cat. Either you're going to have a high flow cat or you're going to have no cat. So when you put your foot down, you're going to feel the throttle a lot more wide open than if you had the stock downpipe in. Furthermore, doing a downpipe will obviously make your car a little louder. It'll make it sound a lot better. So I'm going to insert a video clip of the stock exhaust for my S3 and then a video clip after my S3 when I put the CTS downpipe in. So I personally have the CTS Turbo catted downpipe, but there are many other companies that make downpipes for these cars, such as APR, Unitronic. There's a company out overseas called Traxlag that's really big in the MQB community right now, because I believe they are the only ones that are offering a 4-inch downpipe, if I'm not mistaken. So they're a really big company right now that is doing really well. But honestly, any downpipe that you get aftermarket that you're going to put on your GTI, A3, S3, Golf R, etc. Is going to be a lot better than your factory downpipe, because like I said before, it's going to open up a lot more tuning capabilities for you if you're a car enthusiast. You'll be able to make the most power out of your stock turbo. You'll be able to run the most aggressive tune, and you'll feel the full benefits once you put the downpipe with the tune that matches it. The car is going to be super fun, it's going to make a lot more power, and you're going to love the car that much more. The next mod we're going to be talking about is a cold air intake. Now, an intake is one of the most popular mods throughout the entire car community, no matter what brand car you have. Especially when you have a turbo car, an intake is one of the most popular mods that you can do for your car because of the turbo spool sounds you get from the turbo and the engine that honestly, if you have a turbo car, is one of the things that puts the biggest smile on your face. Now, to be honest, in the MQB platform, the stock intake actually does very well, and there are many people that I've read up on and see in my Facebook forums that they'll have a Vortex turbo on a stock intake. Maybe they'll just upgrade the drop-in filter that goes into the stock airbox, but they're good to go. The stock intake on these cars are actually pretty good, so you really don't need to do this mod. This is more of a sound-based mod rather than a performance-gaining horsepower mod, so just keep that in mind. I personally have the CTS Turbo intake on my car, but there are a lot of nice units that companies sell out there. I know the IE open air intake is another big popular one that's a really good price, under $400. And then there are other companies like APR that offers a nice carbon air intake that is a little more expensive but still really nice and aesthetically looks really nice in the engine bay. So again, just keep in mind that when it comes to an intake, you're doing this for sounds and aesthetics of your engine. When you open up your hood, it looks a lot nicer than the stock airbox. So just keep that in mind. You're not going to see a huge gain in the horsepower department, but it will put a smile on your face. Another mod, this is going to go along with your intake, and I definitely recommend that you guys do this if you decide to buy a cold air intake, and that is replace the inlet pipe that the car comes with. The factory inlet pipe on these cars are honestly really bad. They're plastic, they're super skinny, so it causes kind of a restriction on the turbo, and it causes the turbo to spool up a little later than if you were to get a bigger one with a bigger size diameter that will allow more airflow to allow the turbo to spool up a little quicker. It'll actually feel like the car is a little peppier when you put your foot down, as well as add even more intake and induction noise to your car. The inlet pipe is a great mod because it is not super expensive, depending on what brand you get. And like I said, if you're going to be getting an intake, you're already going to be working in that area anyways, so you might as well just replace both at the same time and call it a day. Now, I personally have, again, the CTS inlet pipe, and that was only about $80, and honestly, I felt a huge difference from the stock one to the aftermarket one, just because, like I said before, the stock one is so skinny and it's plastic, so a lot of times they crack. And like I said, it is a restriction on the turbo. When you open it up and you do a bigger one, obviously you're going to get more airflow, and it's going to cause the turbo to spool up a little quicker. So you're going to feel that in the throttle response, and you're going to hear that from the turbo spool and the noise that you're going to get from your turbo and your engine. Again, there are many different companies that offer inlet pipes for the cars. There is, like I have the CTS one, IE offers one, APR, Unitronic, MST is another company that sells a really good unit. So if you go online and you look up inlet pipe for your MQB car, you will find many different options, and a lot of them are under $200, so it's a super affordable mod. And once again, I recommend you change that out when you also do your intake on your car. So right now I'm going to be entering a sound clip from the stock intake to the aftermarket CTS intake, so you guys can hear the difference of turbo spool noise for yourself. The last performance mod I'm going to be talking in today's video is going to be a huge one, and it's one that I actually personally do not have on the car yet, but I'm working on getting one on the car as soon as possible. That modification is going to be an upgraded intercooler. Now, unfortunately, these cars suffer a lot from heat soak. And if you upgrade your intercooler, it's going to help out with that a lot. You're going to see lower intake temperatures, and if you like to track your car or drag your car, you're going to see a difference immediately from the stock intercooler to the aftermarket one. If you guys saw my video from a little over a month ago, I went to the track, and one of the biggest problems that I had, besides not being able to hook on the drag strip, was my intake air temperatures were ridiculous. I was seeing some temperatures up to 145 to 150 degrees. And the thing was this: I would do a run, I'd come back into the lanes, I'd park, I'd shut off the car, open the hood to allow for heat to try and expel out of the engine bay to try and cool down the car just a little bit. And I was doing a pretty decent amount of runs. If I'm not mistaken, like I said, this was a month ago, I think I did like 6 runs, something like that. And I'd have about an hour, maybe a little more between each run. So the car cooled down pretty well, but my issue was right when I started up the car and I was ready to go, that minute or two from my lane that I was in to actually get up to stage would be like intake temperatures from 80 to 90 degrees, and it would shoot up immediately. And that is so unfortunate because that would obviously, when I go to make my run, would slow down the car excessively. That day at the track, I was seeing like 80-degree weather. It was super humid, so the car was heat soaking so fast. I know if I had an upgraded intercooler, it would keep the car obviously cooler for longer, as well as lower intake temperatures, which, at least in my opinion, would have had really helped me try and do that 11-second pass that I was trying to get the entire day. So a combination from my heavy wheel and decent okay tire setup to not having an upgraded intercooler really killed me on the drag strip that day. So keep in mind, when you're modifying these cars, the intercooler is so crucial. It keeps all the excessive heat out of the system, and the bigger, better unit you have in your car, the more back-to-back pulls you can do before the car gets super hot, the longer you could stay in your staging lane with the car on before it gets super hot. It's gonna have a better top end because it's gonna hold the boost better. There's so many benefits from the intercooler. Obviously, that's going to be one of the next mods that I'm gonna be doing to my S3. So another thing I wanted to mention about the intercooler, from the forums that I've read and the groups that I'm a part of on Facebook, a lot of people seem to recommend a stock location upgraded intercooler rather than a traditional front mount where obviously you could like pull off the grill on the bottom. You can see the front mount right there. A lot of people, like I said, recommend the stock location ones. They say it works a lot better on this platform. So just keep that in mind when you're looking to purchase one. There are also a lot of companies that offer upgraded intercoolers for our cars. The same style companies like CTS, APR, Unitronic, AMS is another company. The DO88 that EQT offers apparently is a really, really good unit, which is probably the one that I'm going to go with from EQT. So like I said, that's going to be one of the next mods that I'm going to be doing to my car because I know it needs it, and for the point at where the car is, that's basically the last major bolt-on I need until I decide to go even further and do stuff like the turbo, fueling, and all that. So that is going to wrap up the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want to recommend any other mods that are performance-based that you would recommend over the ones that I talked in today's video, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear what you recommend. So please let me know your opinion. Don't forget, this video is just my opinion on what I think are the best mods that you can do for your Mark 7 GTI, Golf R, or your A3 and S3. So these are all things that I have on my car besides the intercooler, but like I said, that is coming, that I really feel make the car a lot better. You'll get a lot more performance out of your car, you'll get a lot more smiles out of your car, and it'll just make the car that much more fun to drive. The aftermarket support for these cars are huge, so please do your research. Like I said, if you want to do stuff that I mentioned in today's video, go on Google. You can do an easy search such as like Audi S3 aftermarket intake. A lot of things are going to come up. Audi S3 aftermarket in-pipe, aftermarket downpipe. If you go on Google and you search it up, you can do your own research. You can look up a lot of different brands that offer products for these cars. If there is any product that you're interested in that I have on my car or that I mentioned in today's video for a brand, I will do my best to get you a link for that product for the best price, at least that I find, so that you guys can go and modify your cars. So everyone, please like, comment, and subscribe. It lets YouTube know that I'm doing a good job, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.